Alrighty, so I just got back from out of town, and it's a perfect timing that I got back home just in time for this big news because it's official. The league will indeed switch their season and will now officially align with the European calendar starting in 2027. And this has been in discussion for the past couple of years. There was definitely hints of that, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and it really kind of got some steam as the years pass on. And then we heard about yesterday that they are going to indeed vote on this to see whether or not if it's going to be passed through. And it did. It just passed through a couple of hours ago. And obviously, in this video, I'll go through the detailed changes that will happen. And there's also some that might not actually relate it to the schedule change, but I kind of want to mention it as well. And I also will leave a link in the description in terms of this New York Times Athletic article that will gives a pretty deep detail in terms of how the schedule format is. And most of the things that I wrote in terms of the notes here on the board to talk about the schedule change come from that website. So, as I said, the new fall to spring European calendar type of season will start in the 2027 season. So, it won't happen next year, even though there was talk. I think yesterday they were mentioning that they might actually implement it as soon as the 2026 season, which I don't think that was going to happen because with the World Cup that is going on, that would be just kind of ridiculous for them to start it next year with the World Cup that is going to happen. And what will happen is that the season will now start in mid-July and it will run through May. Now, when you look at the season starting around mid July to May, that usually means that yeah, the off season is now shorter than ever before. And I actually do like the fact that the off season are shorter now. I mean, I know that means that it forces teams to make it quicker in terms of trying to make some changes, and also the preseason itself. I wonder is it going to happen around June now, and that basically we're not going to have an off season anymore in MLS. And as much as that might kind of suck for some of these players that are looking for some off-season plan, I do like the fact that I get to talk about MLS year round, and those off-season, those are kind of tough time for me to talk about MLS. Obviously, I do the moving forward series for every single team, and I think that's also maybe kind of something that will means that I'm gonna have to really get my games up in terms of doing these moving forward series because I've done it way too slow, and also the season preview something is going to be something I'm gonna have to speed up with the off season now being shorter than ever. But in general, I do like the fact that the off season is shorter because more time to enjoy MLS game as we go through the season. Now, that being said, there is going to be a winter break that is going to happen, and we knew this was going to happen. We knew that there was going to be a winter break. They were going to go to a fall to spring season, and this is, I think, the most controversial part in terms of the schedule change of exactly when exactly is this winter break is going to happen. And even if they decide to put this winter break, it's going to still create conflict for all those whole market team and those northern market team. And from what I also have seen the reaction from fans. Obviously, there's been some mixed opinion. There's been some fans that think that it's a good idea. There's been some fans that have hold a lot of backlashes. I can kind of guess in terms of which fans that kind of had those backlashes in terms of the fact that even with the winter breaks starting in the second week of December, and it'll go probably either to the first or third week of February, that there's still backlash in terms of it. And I think an example of that is Minnesota fan. As a Loons fan myself, even though I don't live in Minnesota, I do feel for those folks in Minnesota. Like, there is no way in the world I think that the Loons are going to be playing games in December, and especially even in early February. They even mentioned it on their statement earlier today. They released a statement talk about the schedule change and the fact that most likely they're gonna have most of the games that's gonna be fall between mid July to November, and then they probably won't have any games in December because that's started to get really cold in Minnesota, and then even in February as well. I mean, have you seen what we saw a couple of years ago between the U.S. versus Honduras? I think that is an example of why we should not be playing games in February in Minnesota. I mean, that was an absolutely freeze kind of game, or not even a freeze game, but that was just a very cold and just dangerous kind of condition kind of game as well. And obviously, as much as they try to avoid that, that also creates a problem where now you're going to have a situation where you could go 3 months without a home game in an MLS season. I mean that's an easy way to lose interest in terms of fans, and I've already have heard a lot of fans are also canceling their season ticket as a resort of this as well. This is also where I will definitely talk about throughout this video, and maybe once again mention again the fact that you know this decision that MLS made in terms of changing to the European calendar was not an easy one. I think they definitely see some advantage out there, and there's definitely a lot an advantage. The fact that not only now it aligns with the European calendar, and it doesn't make this situation where if you decide to transfer a player or overseas, or usually where the summer transfer window, that's where the business are being made between teams in Europe and all over. Now you don't have that situation where there's going to be an awkward situation where you're going to have to sell your best player over the summer, and then yeah, we still have MLS regular season left, and how much that really cripples teams in the past as well. By doing that, and no don't have to worry about, just have to wait until the winter to do business, and the winter transfer window is usually not where a lot of European teams and a lot of big business are being made. That obviously is kind of the aspect of it, and also it plays to the part that the scheduling itself. I'm assuming the scheduling, and they didn't mention this, but I'm going to assume that means that we're no longer going to have to worry about MLS game that is going to be happening during the international break. Like surely, with the way that how this schedule is set up, there should not be MLS game that takes place in international break. That is something that players, fans, and coaches have hate about this ever since day number one when this was implemented, and you can clearly see how much of a huge impact it does when it comes to the season, and how much unfairness also can happen as well, because imagine you have a crucial game and it's pushed back to a game during the international break, and yeah, you're missing basically half of your team because half of the team is already on international break. So that obviously would be the benefit in terms of it, and also with the way that it seems like, as I mentioned, the playoffs is going to happen in May. I'm assuming that also means that we no longer have a situation like what we're facing right now, which is just so frustrating in terms of this current playoff format with the best of three series taking forever, and then you have this international break where we're not going to have an MLS game until next weekend as well. That just absolutely killed every momentum that teams have, especially for teams that make quick works in terms of their first round matchup against their opposition as well. So obviously, you no longer have to worry about the international break as a resort to delay or disrupt the playoffs. That's definitely a big benefit. But as I said, the huge disadvantage is that northern market and colder market, they are getting absolutely screwed with the way that a lot of these colder market, there is no way in world you're going to have games that's happening in December. And even if there is going to be game happening in December, yeah, the attendance is gonna be absolutely horrendous. I would not be surprised if the first year that they switched to the schedule, that the attendance is going to go down. And I know the warmer markets might still have pretty good attendance, because obviously fans can still attend games during that point, but it doesn't really kind of outweigh or at least make up in terms of the colder markets, where boy, I mean, I'm not looking forward to see how dreadful some of the attendance is, and also just this is definitely gonna really killed in terms of getting fan interest, and also keeping fans interact, because again, no casual MLS fans is going to watch their team play in the middle of the winter, and especially no casual MLS fans is going to be sitting for 3 months not realizing that their team is not going to be playing a single home game. They easily will lose interest in terms of the league. And I haven't even got to the fact that I talk about the disruption, the winter break. I'll talk about how maybe that will be filled up because of the Leeds Cup, but still, I mean that's still a long break in between the season. That maybe could kill the momentum of each team, where you could have so much momentum heading before the winter break, and then once you come back from winter break, because everything has changed, I mean that just kind of throw off everything as a resort. Now, the regular season, of course, will be ending in April, with the playoffs starting in May as well. There's going to be no MLS games that's going to be happening in June and mid July. So yeah, unfortunately that of course is the case. But hey, one thing I will say is that USL have been thinking about changing the schedule as well. And I also think that this schedule change, how much is that going to also impact the USL, and how much that will really flame the civil war that I envision is going to happen between MLS and USL in the near future, especially with USL have already made their application of creating a top tier league that will rival MLS with the first division. I mean, it's going to be very fascinating to see how that this will be effective, and I wouldn't be surprised that these two leagues they could really be butting heads with each other, similar to what we see with the NFL and the AFL back in those days in the late '60s before both league of course merged. Now, if you're also wondering, well, with the way that they switched the schedule, how's the transition going to work out in 2027? Because you can't just have a situation where you're going to have between November all the way to July without any single game. Well, they decided that they are going to have a 14 game transition season, so kind of like a mini MLS season as well. I wish they have an MLS's back type of tournament. I mean, I feel like that would be great, especially how much I enjoyed the MLS's back tournament back in that pandemic year, and I think I probably have the most fun when it comes to watching MLS soccer during that time, even though it was kind of bizarre to see no fans being played or no fans attending, and they were basically playing at a soccer complex that is. I really feel like they could have definitely implemented that instead of just a 14 game transitional season, because once that season is over, I mean, you heard about how in the COVID shortened season, some fans basically put an asterisk in terms of team because they feel like that's a fake championship. It's like a bubble championship. I wonder if this is going to be the same thing with that whoever's going to win that mini MLS season in 2027. I mean, do you even count that as an MLS Cup as well, considering there's only 14 games, and it's not even close to being a full season. Heck, it's not even a half a season that is as well. This is pretty much like almost like a bubble kind of season, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised whoever wins that. So the team that wins that season, they'll definitely be happy, and they'll definitely count that as an MLS Cup. But some fans will basically say, yeah, we're gonna put an asterisk and we're gonna call that the Mickey Mouse MLS Cup because it wasn't a full season and it was happening during a transitional year. Now, the other thing that was kind of also interesting besides the schedule change is also the format itself. So, in addition to the schedule change, they also have the format change as well. And I was always wondered if this was going to happen, which is the league decided to get rid of the Eastern and Western Conference and just go with division. And indeed, that is the case. The league will now move into 5-16 division and move to a single table competition as well. Now, the division is going to be based on graphics, which again, not a big surprise considering this is kind of how it is. We see in other leagues like the NBA, NHL, and even to some extent the NFL as well. And it's also going to be interesting with the way that you have this 6 team division. They already mentioned the fact that how they're going to do this 6 team division, or at least how the regular season is going to go, is that they're going to potentially have each team play against their division twice, and then basically have a one game against the rest of the team that is not within the division. So that basically means that they're going to go through a little bit of a more of a balanced schedule, which is kind of something that I think fans and players and coaches want to see, where this unbalanced schedule does kind of create a bit of a problem where some teams get an easier schedule than others, so they maybe get a little unfair advantage. But with this, at least it does go with a little bit of more balanced schedule. Although there will also still be some people will say, well, it's not really totally a perfect balanced schedule like what we saw a couple of years ago, where we actually did have a balanced schedule where each team gets to play their conference twice and then play the other interconference match once in the season. I think that this is probably the closest of being there as well, and make it a little bit more fair. And it's also interesting that they're moving to a single table competition. That will also kind of be where it perfectly transition to what I'll talk about the playoff format as well. They didn't mention exactly how the playoff format is going to look like. I'm gonna assume that they might get rid of the best of three series. I mean, hopefully that is the case, because I think a lot of fans have hate this best of three series, and it's just an absolute drag in terms of playoffs. And knowing the fact that they also said that the playoffs is only going to take place in May, there is no way in the world they're going to do a best of three series in this new playoff format. There won't be enough time to do that as well. So it's going to be fascinating how the playoff format is and how many teams that gets in. I'm gonna assume that before they even propose this, whoever wins the division out of that 5-16 division is gonna get an automatic playoff spot. I mean, it has to be that way. We see it in other sports where when you win your division, you automatically get a playoff spot, and I feel like that would make perfect sense in MLS as well, where if you win your division, you get an automatic playoff spot, and then the rest. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how they will do. I wouldn't be surprised they might do something what the MLB is doing, where they decided that whoever wins the division gets the automatic spot. But then you have the wild card spot and the free wild card spot. I think in the MLB determined in terms of the rest of the records that are teams that didn't win the division that will move on into the playoffs as well. I wouldn't be surprised this might be the same case where if we're gonna have a 16 team playoff format, I wouldn't be surprised you get the 5 division winner and then you get the 11 teams after that as well. Now, obviously, with this way, there will be a little bit of unfairness that will go on, and this is something we see with the MLB and in many extents the NFL as well, where sometimes you might have a division winner that has a significant worse record than teams that, of course, didn't win the division but have more points total as well. At the end of the day, I mean, as much as that is definitely a big problem, I do think that it's kind of an unfortunate thing, but it's also just the way it is when it comes to how the format is, and I think that would be just the perfect format to do. So especially winning your division is not easy whatsoever. You could be in an easy division or you can be in a hard division, but at the end of the day, we know that when you win your division, there has to be a reward as a result, whether if it's an easy division or not. And I think it makes perfect sense. Whoever wins the division has to make it to the playoffs, and then the single table competition will pretty much decide who, of course, will make it to the playoffs in the future. Now, the other thing that they mentioned in the article is that there was a talk that the colder market wants a mitigation in terms of these teams getting some expenses and loss of revenue and renovation of the stadium and training facility. And the warmer market team basically said no, they don't want that to happen, and that is exactly the case. So there is not going to be any mitigation. That's obviously the one thing that has been criticized because with these colder market they need to definitely make some renovation in terms of not just the stadium but the training facility as well. Like a lot of these team training facility are not designed for cold weather kind of facility. I'm kind of fortunate the fact that I think for Minnesota as an example, they actually do train indoor in the National Sport Center, so they don't really need to make too much adjustment in terms of that. But for some teams that are playing in colder markets are don't really have like a little indoor bubble like what we see with some teams in the northern market. Yeah, they definitely will need some renovation to do so, and the fact that they're not going to get the revenue or not going to get the mitigation from the league itself, that's is something that I can totally understand why colder market teams are going to be very frustrated by that. Because if you're going to go in this direction, you need to have some changes in terms of these teams, in terms of making some stadium and training facility that could survive during this tough stretch of the winter month when I wouldn't be surprised we're gonna see more snow classical game and more extreme weather games that's gonna happen during that time. Now, most game in December and February will also be most likely played in warmer market as well. So I mentioned, the season does end around well, at least the first part of the season before the winter break will end around mid December, and then it'll start again around the third week or the first week of February as well. Most likely it's going to be the third week of February. I don't think they're going to start in the first week, not just because of the weather itself, but there's no way MLS is going to go clash with the Super Bowl as well. That is a big no for MLS to trying to play games during Super Bowl week. But yeah, this of course will also kind of goes back to the unfair fairness in terms of these colder market teams where there could be a chance where they might not see their team play at home for 3 months, and that could be a huge disadvantage for some of these teams because I know away teams have gone much better over the years in terms of them picking up points on the road compared to was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But still, imagine have to play on the road for 5 or 6 straight games. That could be a very tedious thing, and also and it could create some unfairness compared to these warmer market team where they don't really need to suffer for playing 6 games on the road during a stretch because of the way that their stadiums are and the location that they are can still perfectly host soccer during those times as well. So yeah, that's obviously the huge disadvantage and a huge and kind of one of the main reason why a lot of fans and teams in the colder markets are not liking this change because of the way that yeah even with the winter break during that time when it's the coldest month it doesn't really help us whatsoever. We still get pretty cold weather during those times as well. Now, another thing that is kind of unrelated to this, but I also want to mention is the fact that MLS Season Pass will not be a thing at the end of the 2025 season. So now MLS is going to have all their games that's going to be happening on the Apple TV streaming device. They're not going to have a separate paywall, and I think this is the right move to do it at the end of the day. I think it was kind of ridiculous the fact that they decided to put it at a separate paywall, and maybe this will get more people into it because the Apple TV subscriber list is pretty good, and that maybe they by doing this they can pull in those kind of folks to be interest in terms of this product, and not to mention, with the way that you of course get Apple TV, not only you get MLS game, but you get other things that's going to happen on Apple TV. I believe there's also a couple of MLB games that happen on Apple TV. I think every Friday they have an Apple TV MLB games that is. F1 is also going to be on Apple TV next year as well. So if you like racing, which for me, I'm not really a big F1 fan, but I'll definitely check it out since I'll of course get this Apple TV subscription. And by the way, this Apple TV subscription, for fans that are worried the fact that, does that mean that our price is going to increase? Right now the Apple TV subscription is pretty much the same cost as the season pass, $99 annually. Hopefully they don't change that. I mean, that would be a huge slap in the face, but we'll see if that is going to be case. I'll definitely be paying the $99 annual subscription for Apple TV in terms of watching my MLS game. But again, I think this is a huge bonus. The fact that now we don't have to worry about a separate paywall as well, because I think that's kind of one of the things that kind of draw people away. The fact that we have to pay an additional though paywall, even though we already have Apple TV. I think that was kind of a little bit ridiculous, and that yeah, now that it seems like it's just going to be on the broader Apple TV streaming device, and maybe able to get more fans into this product than we did before. And then lastly, the Leeds Cup and the Open Cup itself, it will be affected because of this. The Leeds Cup itself, I think they'll definitely play this during the cold winter month. And most likely they're going to only have it at warmer market because obviously you cannot have a Liga MX versus MLS game in the middle of the winter in colder market. I mean, as much as we might see a Minnesota versus Club America game at Allianz Field in January, that probably is not going to be a great idea. I mean, Liga MX team will straight out not want to participate in this tournament anymore if they decided to do that. So yeah, most likely it's going to be in a warmer market. Most likely games could actually happen in Mexico now because in Mexico it's pretty much warm throughout the entire year. It doesn't get cold during the winter as well. So maybe that might give some fans, especially the Yankees fans, maybe might say that this competition might have a little bit more legitimacy. The fact that right now it just kind of feels like this is just like a Mickey Mouse and kind of a cash cow kind of tournament with the way that all the games are happening in U.S. Market, and that no league MX team can host a game in their home stadium. And I know there's also neutral venue, but that still isn't the same thing as well. So maybe we'll see that happen where maybe this schedule change might force the Leeds Cup and the organizer to have to play games down in Mexico as well. But I think the biggest factor in terms of this, besides the Leeds Cup, is got to be the Open Cup. The Open Cup is going to be very interesting to see how it will affect. I'm going to assume the fact that they'll probably won't have Open Cup games that's going to be happening around June and July. I mean, usually we don't see the Open Cup in terms of their format and in terms of each round, it has changed throughout the years as well. There's sometimes they have it in August, sometimes they have it in September, sometimes they have it in October as well. So I think that they're gonna have to work around that as well. But I think if there is one thing that maybe could be a blessing in disguise with the way that the schedule change that can benefit the Open Cup, you don't have to worry about the situation with the Leeds Cup itself kind of overlapping the Open Cup, because I'm assuming the Open Cup is probably going to be done by November. Consider it's probably still going to follow the spring and fall season, so there's not going to be any conflict in terms of that as well, and maybe this might push every single MLS team to actually participate in the U.S. Open Cup like it should have been in all these years, but before it all changes in these last 2 years or so. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this expanded video talking about this schedule change. I know it's a bit of a long video, but again, I want to go detail in terms of talk about all the things that is mentioned in this schedule change that they had, and I want to also let you guys know in the comments below, what do you think about this. I'm assuming there's going to be a mixed reaction to this. I know there's going to be some people that say that it sucks, but there are also some people say that there is going to be some benefit. If you want my reaction, I'm kind of standing in the middle of the fact that, yeah, I can definitely see the benefit in terms of that, but I can definitely see the huge disadvantage that it is. But at the end of the day, I do think that MLS decided to do this mainly because they feel like the advantage that they see in this move outweighs the disadvantage. Because while it definitely has both advantage and disadvantage of changing this, they feel like the way the advantage has will really progress the league, and if that, of course, is going to be the case, then that's why they decided to vote on this, even if they know that this might actually sacrifice some player, or not player interest, but fan interest when it comes to watching this league, especially during the winter months as well. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.